A couple came to us last year. We'll call them Matt and Megan, 50 and 48 and 7.6 million of invested assets. And Matt sat across from me in our Zoom meeting, burnt out, and asked me a simple question. Can I retire now? So we built the plan, we ran the numbers, but our software gave us an answer that we couldn't get behind. 62% probability of success. On paper, this was a wealthy couple, but in reality, they were stuck. Now, here's what most people get wrong about a moment like this. They assume that the problem is the size of the portfolio, and that if the answer is not yet, well, then you just need a bigger number. But Matt and Megan didn't have a savings problem. They had a structure problem, and structure is something you can actually fix. Now let me walk you through how we took this plan from a 62 to an 87% success rate without Matt working a single day longer than he was willing to. Now let me set the table. Matt is an executive at a technology company, $600K salary, $400K bonus, and roughly $200K in annual RSUs. So call it $1.2 million a year. But here's the part that matters. He only stepped into that level of income about 5 years ago when he got promoted. And while he was always a high earner, that was a real jump for him. And to his credit, he used those 5 years to save aggressively. Now, Megan runs her own consulting practice where she works with nonprofits, and she makes about $75,000 a year. She's not the breadwinner, and she'd tell you that herself, but she has something that Matt doesn't: freedom. She chooses her hours, her clients, and her workload. Their 2 kids are grown and through college, so this plan was all about Matt and Megan. Now let's talk about why they had a 62% probability of success to begin with. Let's look at where their money actually lived. 1.2 million in Matt's 401k, 3.9 million in his IRA, 900,000 in Megan's solo 401k. So if you're doing the math, that's 6 million sitting in pre-tax accounts, against just 1.1 million in a taxable brokerage account, plus a couple $100,000 in a Roth and an HSA. So they had 2 problems. And I see these 2 problems very often with high earning executive households. Problem 1, the overwhelming majority of their wealth was pre-tax. So every dollar that they pull out in retirement gets taxed as ordinary income. And that's a lifetime tax drag that they hadn't accounted for. Problem 2, they couldn't touch a bulk of it, not without a penalty, not until age 59 and a half. Yes, Matt could have used the rule of 55 to access his 401k, but that's only if he stayed with his company until 55. And staying 3 more years to unlock his own money was not the life he wanted. So on paper, 7.6 million. In practice, a couple who couldn't access their own money and would get taxed heavily when they finally could. That's the trap. A big balance sheet that doesn't actually translate into freedom. So we stopped trying to answer the wrong question. The question was never, could Matt retire at 50? The better question was, how do we design a life that works and fund it in the smartest way possible? This is what I call hybrid retirement. It's a transition out of full-time corporate work over several years into something more intentional and flexible. Work becomes optional, income becomes flexible, but your purpose stays front and center. So I asked Matt a different question. Not when do you want to be done? Instead, I asked, how many more years could you see yourself doing this? His answer was 2. And then he said something almost in passing. He said he envied Megan's schedule and the freedom to choose the work and the people. And that one comment became the center of the entire plan. So here's what we built. 4 moves. Move 1. Matt works 2 more years and retires from the corporate world at 52, as he originally stated in the goals planning session. But in those 2 years, we completely rewired how he saves. He'd been maxing his traditional 401k for years. We took that down to 0. Instead, we maxed his Roth 401k, including his catch-up contribution. Then we turned on something that his company offered and he didn't even know he had: the mega backdoor Roth. This couple had only ever done the smaller backdoor Roth IRA, so their Roth balances were thin. By stacking his Roth 401k with the mega backdoor, we routed roughly $72,000 a year into future tax-free accounts in his final 2 working years. Same job, same income, same savings, just pointed at the right buckets for their plan. And this is exactly why having enough money and having a retirement plan that actually works are 2 completely different things. If you're approaching retirement and want us to look at how your income, your assets, and your taxes fit together, you can book a free wealth clarity chat using the link below. Now, move 2 is where this plan gets really interesting. At 52, Matt takes a break, a real one, 2 full years where he does not work at all. During this time, Megan keeps her practice going, but intentionally scales it back because they want to travel together. They go to different parts of the world that they had always wanted to see, and they go visit their kids who live in different parts of the country. They test drive retirement. But those 2 low income years are not just a vacation. They're one of the most valuable tax windows this couple will ever have. With Matt's income gone, we run aggressive Roth conversions, and we deliberately fill their tax bracket up to 32% each year. We're taking money out of that $6 million pre-tax pile, paying tax on it now on purpose at rates we control, and moving it into the tax-free Roth bucket for good. Move 3. At 54, Matt goes back to work, but on his terms. He builds a consulting practice in his field, achieving the exact freedom he admired in Megan. We modeled him starting conservatively at $100,000 a year in revenue, a number he was confident he could hit because he had 2 years to build toward it. He runs that practice from 54 to 59, and that income does something really important for their portfolio. It takes the pressure off of their taxable account. Remember, they only had $1.1 million there to bridge these early years. And Matt's consulting income means we're not draining that account nearly as fast. Move 4, at 59 and a half, the doors open. Now they can access their retirement accounts without penalty. And Megan retires now too. And with both of them no longer earning, we go back to aggressive Roth conversions. So we bridge this 7-year gap, 2 years which Matt didn't work at all, and 5 years of consulting on his own schedule, and a tax strategy running underneath all of it. So what did this actually do? Let me give you the numbers. At 59, they'd drawn the taxable account down to almost nothing. But that was the plan. That account existed to build the bridge, and it did its job. But look at what they're left holding. $5.8 million in tax-free Roth assets built up from almost nothing, and $8.8 million in tax-deferred accounts. That is a completely different retirement. Instead of a giant pre-tax pile they'd be forced to draw down and get taxed on, they now have a real mix and a huge tax-free bucket they can pull from at will. And because neither of them is working, we keep converting, making even more of it tax-free over time. Now the headline numbers. The plan went from a 62% to an 87% probability of success based on our Monte Carlo simulation. And a probability of success over 80% is the threshold we care about. Because at those levels, even the worst markets at the worst time only require a small lifestyle adjustment, not a crisis. Over the life of the plan, the tax strategy alone saves them roughly $17.7 million in taxes. And by the end, essentially 100% of their wealth is positioned tax-free for their kids, compared to 16% if they had just kept doing what they were doing. Same assets, same people, a completely different outcome. But here's the part I actually care about the most. Matt is not white-knuckling it to age 59 anymore. He has an end date, 2 years, and he can see it. He's using that time to mentor and hire his own replacement, so he leaves on good terms. And he's genuinely excited because those 2 years off aren't a fantasy anymore. They're a funded, structured part of the plan. He and Megan get to travel while he's building a consultancy that he's really excited about. And Megan gets to keep doing the work that she loves on her own schedule right alongside him. That's the whole point. This was never about squeezing a bigger number out of a spreadsheet. It was about taking the resources they already had and mapping them to the life they actually wanted. And that's what good financial planning is. Not a product, not a prediction about the market, a plan that fits your life and a tax strategy that respects how hard you worked to build it. If you're an executive looking at a big balance sheet and wondering why the answer to the question, can I step back, still feels like not yet, it's probably not your savings. It's probably your structure, and structure is fixable. If you want to see what a plan like this could look like for your situation, book a Wealth Clarity chat with us. The link is in the description. We'll walk through your compensation, your tax picture, and what a hybrid retirement plan could look like for you. You didn't build this career to stay stuck in it. You built it to have options. Let's go design them.